Beginning of the old Saturday Night Live where they're calling it 10 seconds and 5 seconds. Live on Facebook. Live on Facebook.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to the regular council meeting of the Village of Ruidoso Council this February 9th. It's 1 p.m. We'll have an invocation, a pledge, and a salute to the flag of New Mexico. So if you'll join me, I'd like to ask Councilor Jackson if he would give us an invocation after a moment of silence.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in you we live and move and have our being. We humbly pray you so to guide us and govern us by your Holy Spirit, that in all our actions we may not forget you, but may remember you, that we are ever walking in your sight, being ever mindful of the needs of others. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll have a roll call, please, Mr. Sena.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Councilor Letterman.
Here.
Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Cornelius.
Here.
Councilor Coughlin.
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
All present, Mayor. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ron. All right, I'd like approval for today's agenda. Please give me the flexibility to move around the schedule. We have a special guest to give us some insight later today.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented and allow the chair to move the items on the agenda as needs must.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Sena.
Councilor Jackson.
Aye.
Councilor Letterman.
Aye.
Councilor Eby.
Aye.
Councilor Salas.
Aye.
Councilor Cornelius.
Aye.
Councilor Coughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 9 consent regular items. I'll read off as follows. Item number 1 is approval of governing body minutes, January 12th, 2021 regular meeting, January 26th, 2021 special meeting, January 26th through the 27th, 2021 workshop meeting, strategic planning, February 2nd, 2021 workshop meeting. So much for that one meeting a month, ladies and gentlemen. I know you were all sold on that. Item number 2, ratification of adoption of resolution 2021-06, a resolution approving the acquisition of real property located at 118 Lakeshore Drive, Alto, New Mexico, in Lincoln County, New Mexico. Item number 3 is ratification of emergency medical services, EMS, Fund Act local funding application with New Mexico Department of Health for medical and training supplies for fiscal year 2021 for the Ruidoso Fire Department. Item number 4 is ratification of change order number 1 with White Sands Construction, pardon me, through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, contract number 2020-09B-G 1137-all for audio video infrastructure and backing for Village Hall in the amount of $11,845.89, including gross receipts tax. Item number 5 is adoption of Resolution 2021-07, a resolution of support and commitment to the funding of the 2021-2022 New Mexico Department of Transportation Co-op Funding Program. Item number 6, adoption of Resolution 2021-08, a resolution of support and commitment to the funding of the 2021-2022 New Mexico Department of Transportation NMDOT MAP funding program. Item number 7 is the approval of state grants and aid public libraries agreement with the New Mexico State Library for the second half of fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $7,528.95. Item number 8 is request to schedule a public hearing on March 9th, 2021 on adoption of the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Plan. Item number 9, request to schedule a public hearing on March 9th, 2021 on preliminary development plan to operate outdoor recreation activities within a 5-acre tract known as the James Townsend Tract 1A, located at 525 Resort Drive, Ruidoso, New Mexico. Okay, we have some pretty good stuff in there. Can I get a motion?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please, Mr. Sena.
Counselor Lutterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson, Counselor Cornelius. Thank you.
Okay, our public input portion, do we have anybody come in?
Mayor Crawford, members of the governing body, the clerk's office did not receive any public input.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll move on to mayoral reports and presentations. And this is a big bonus. When you get to be mayor, you get to do fun stuff like this because you get to recognize awesome people in the community. And we have a proclamation, 2021 as the year of working together in Ruidoso. And to give you a little background, we have some awesome people in the community that I really would like to recognize. And this started out with one of our own, our PIO, Public Information Officer, Carrie Gladden, saw what was happening down at a place called Fusion Medical Center. And so she had reached out to the USA media. I'm not sure that she'd put it out there that there was 2 doctors in a book club that was rolling out vaccinations in rural New Mexico, and it was picked up by the Washington Post, and a nice article was online and then actually written up in their paper. Then it went on to be picked up by help me,
Nora.
Good Morning America, and then Nora.
The Today, CBS.
CBS, and then the Houston Chronicle, and then the BBC picked it up, and where they mentioned Ruidoso, and I was told that we had over 150 million exposures to this story, and of course it's here in Ruidoso. So what this boils around is that I know most of you know the folks down at Fusion Medical, and Dr. Rath was contacted and was able to start the vaccination process, but he realized he was going to have a tough time getting all these shots in arms and he needed some help. So along with his wife, Dr. Carrie Rath, she enlisted her book club, which all banded together, I think with their husbands and significant others and whatnot, and set up a vaccination. I mean, they were running them through like cattle through there. I think most everybody here has been through that, but they did such an awesome job of coming together, volunteering their time, and we just wanted to give them some recognition since basically the rest of the United States and the world has recognized them. It's about time we did. But we're so thankful to have these kind of folks in the community. So I'm going to start off with a proclamation for Carrie Gladden for having the foresight and the inclination to see the gravity of this story about how a few people in a community can really help us. And actually, it's got us on the leading edge in New Mexico as far as vaccinations to make sure that the people that are wanting one can actually get one. So we applaud Dr. Rath and his staff. I mean, he's graciously given up a lot of his practice to be able to get people in. It's kind of hard to do those two things at one time, but they're super efficient. And to the fabulous ladies, I think is the name of it. I'll have to get my glasses on so I don't screw this up any more than I already have. But we're just so appreciative of what Dr. Rath, Fusion Medical, the fabulous ladies at the book club, what they've done, and their folks that they've drawn into this mix. And so it really makes me proud to be the mayor of a community that has this many giving people. So I'll start off with a proclamation. Whereas Carrie Gladden, Public Information Officer for the Village of Ruidoso, created national and global awareness of our community effort in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas Miss Gladden used innovative resources available to reach a larger audience to gain proper recognition for the life-saving work being done in our community, and whereas Carrie Gladden worked diligently with media partners, Fusion Medical Spa, and the Fabulous Ladies Book Club to schedule and conduct media interviews with major networks to share this story of hope, and whereas she acquired well-deserved publicity and positive attention on the collaborative effort our local community has put forth during this pandemic, shining light on the impact volunteers can have in our society. And whereas Mrs. Gladden propelled the work done in our community to be recognized at a local, national, and global level, gaining attention from public figures and numerous authors, and whereas Carrie Gladden was a crucial component in the recognition our community received that highlighted the local efforts being done to help save lives here in New Mexico. Now, therefore, I, Lynn Crawford, Mayor of the Village of Ruidoso, do hereby proclaim February 9th, 2021 as Shining a Light and Sharing Hope Day in Ruidoso, proclaimed this 9th day of February 2021 in Ruidoso, New Mexico. So you can hold your applause, and I know I'm going to get critique from Carrie on that. She's real good at that. So we're going to have the second part of this proclamation. Whereas Fusion Medical Spa, led by Dr. Stephen Rath, in collection with the Fabulous Ladies Book Club and its members, and if I've forgotten anybody, forgive me, please, we'll fix it. Its members, Dr. Carrie Rath, Alexandria Bobbitt Bourne, Liz Smith, K.C. Stahl, Jennifer Carey, Dr. Amanda Favis, Christy Espinosa, Jillian Epstein Baudo, Catherine Marsh, Molly Huey, and Marin Goza formed a partnership effort to help our community in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Fusion Medical and the Fabulous Ladies Book Club organized incredible grassroots efforts to help vaccinate local community members in a safe and viable manner, and whereas together they worked eagerly with New Mexico State Health Department officials to obtain the vaccines and necessary training with the state online portal to roll out the vaccine clinic in Lincoln County, and whereas Fusion Medical and the Fabulous Ladies Book Club recruited and trained additional dedicated community members to help reach as many citizens as possible while prioritizing our most vulnerable residents. And whereas Fusion Medical and the Fabulous Ladies Book Club began to work with the New Mexico Department of Health to bring the COVID-19 vaccine to our area in December 2020 and were operating by the first days of January 2021. And whereas Fusion Medical and the Fabulous Ladies Book Club were able to vaccinate nearly 2,000 community members in Lincoln County during the first 10 days of operating the vaccine clinic, thereby helping to save the lives of many people as well as giving hope to our community as we continue to navigate this pandemic together. Now, therefore, I, Lynn Crawford, Mayor of the Village of Ruidoso, do hereby proclaim 2021 as the year of working together in Ruidoso, proclaimed this 9th day of February 2021 in Ruidoso, New Mexico. So I've got each one of you ladies a certificate here we'll be getting to you. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate what you've done, and I know there's so many people in our community that do as well. You're a shining example of what a few people can make a big impact. So we thank you, and hopefully this inspires others to follow on. So anyway, does anybody else have any comments? Anybody else want to say anything?
Talk about efficiency, man. The last time when I went for my second vaccine, they had 2 outdoor patio heaters outside, and you could either go inside or walk up to one of the heaters and you were in and out in no time. I mean, they have it down. And it's amazing the number of vaccines that they've continued to give and helping to protect people in our area. So
Because I think we're well over 20% now, I think, in the county vaccinated.
talked to somebody from the hospital, and they've got 1,000 appointments set up for this week. That's just at the hospital, plus everything else that's being done. So we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And now the pharmacies, New Mexico is in with the pharmacies
Right.
to get some more vaccinations, so that's good.
Yeah, I know the hospital, and I believe that Sierra Blanca Pharmacy is getting ready to roll, and a few of those, but you guys got it right off the bat. You answered the call. You didn't think, why me, or whatever. Y'all just did it. So we really do appreciate what you've done. So thank you very much. All right, moving on. That's all inspiring, you know.
That is.
When you got people that are willing to step outside their comfort level, but
Teachers are set up for this week.
the teachers are.
Yeah, so Friday, instead of in-person learning, they're going to go completely virtual so that the teachers all have an opportunity to go get vaccinated.
Awesome. And then we can get our businesses open. I see the waterman coming. Thank you, Adam. Okay, now we're going to do something else that we started not too long ago, is introduction to new employees at the Village of Ruidoso. And it's just that we like to lay eyes on people, put name with faces if we can, and vice versa for them. So we're going to start off with Austin Tucker. He was hired December 20th. He's a line service technician at the airport, and he is here at the convention center. And we don't want to embarrass anybody, but you just want to come out here, and we just want to welcome you to the village and let you know, if you don't mind, could you just take your mask down, and then we'll see you. Now you can, there we go. But we just want to welcome you to the village. And hopefully you have a long stint, and it's very prosperous for you and your family. Is there anything you have to ask of us, or? No, sir. Okay, well, does anybody have any questions?
No?
Yes.
Welcome aboard. Thank you very much, Austin. Good luck. Next is Lane Southard. Is it Southard? Did I say it right, Lane? Southard. Okay, well, I've only met him like 4 times, and I'm just not good.
Thank you.
And Lane is a firefighter, and we appreciate you because we think we've got the best firefighting facilities and the men and women over there that we could possibly have, and we're so happy to have you. And we're excited about the new truck that we're ordered. So anyway, this is Lane, and we hope to see you here for a long time, sir. You bet. Do you have any questions or any comments? Are you getting any equipment? Okay. We're hoping he gets some good equipment. All right. Thank you very much.
Lane.
Thanks, Lane.
Okay.
And about Lane, I'll say that his dad served many years in our fire department, so I know he came from good stock. And he'll do really good here, Lane. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Lane. All right. How about Aaron Chavez?
He's on Zoom.
He's on Zoom. Okay. Hi there, Aaron. I remember doing the welcome Zoom. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You were hired also at the end of December, and you're in Parks and Rec, which
Yes,
those
sir.
guys are kind of the poster children around here. They overtook the fire department and the police department for favoritism. So I think you're in a good group, and we want to welcome you to the Village of Ruidoso family, and we're expecting good things and a long tenure out of you. Do you have any comments or questions for us?
Just want to thank you guys for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to just what comes up.
Oh, a lot will come up. Don't worry.
Yeah, a lot will come up. All right. Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot, Aaron.
Thank you.
Jacob Miller.
He's also on Zoom.
Okay, Jacob Miller was hired in January 18th, 2021, and he is a certified police officer, and we are so happy to have you amongst our ranks. And I don't even know, where did you come from, Jacob?
I come from Jal, sir.
Jal, okay, that's right, I remember now. Well, good, I was glad we were able to make it all happen. Do you have any questions or comments you have for the council?
No, sir.
Okay, if you're ever in need, we're here, so reach out. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Miriam Alvalar with an L.
So on Zoom right there.
Okay, hi Miriam, I'm sorry I butchered the last name. But it's glad to have you aboard, and she will be administrative assistant 2. And what department is that you're gonna be in? The police department?
I'm going to be working for the police department.
Okay. Well, good luck, and we hope that you enjoy your time there and that it's very profitable for you. So does anyone have any comments or questions? Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome back.
Yes.
It's a welcome back. Okay, awesome. All right, thank you, Miriam. And then we'll get down to Linda Lewis, was hired January 18th, 2021. She's the records clerk at the police department, and she is here in person. Hello, Linda. Good. We're so glad to have you.
If I may, Mr.
You
Mayor,
bet.
She comes to us from Las Cruces, where she was the city clerk there for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So her expertise has already just blown the doors off of our.
We know she has
We're
Kevlar.
excited. She was in training this morning, got done with this, so she was able to come over across the street, but we're real excited.
Awesome.
Welcome.
We're glad to have you. And you've already found a place here in Ruidoso? Temporary. Okay, well, good luck. That's one of our struggles we're working on right now. So thank you. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
I guess everybody got water but me.
Yeah, Adam said you didn't want it.
I guess I'm getting all choked up for nothing. I was trying to.
Chief's gonna try his pitching.
Okay, that's nice when we were able to put these kind of folks on. Thank you, Chief. You're so handy, man.
Sorry, Mayor.
I think we're good.
Yeah, just remember that at budget time, Adam.
Mayor, was that it? I thought we had more than that.
That's all I've got here. Is there any more?
Ernesto, Hidalgo.
Ernesto Hidalgo in the street department.
I don't have him on my deal.
He is no longer with us, Mayor.
He's what? Is it over here? Is he on my deal?
Yeah, it's on the agenda memo.
Okay. Ernesto Hidalgo.
Mayor, he's no longer with us.
And that's why he wasn't on my list.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Sounds like one of my employees.
I
Yeah.
hope he showed up the first day at least.
Okay, now we'll move on to a little presentation from the Director of Operations, Matt Ingram, for the Ruidoso Midtown Association. Are you with us there, Matthew?
Hey, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for having me. If I could share this presentation with you guys.
Okay.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is part of our quarterly update in regards to our scope of services with the Village of Ruidoso. Just want everybody to be aware, ruidosomainstreet.com is kind of our happening spot where we have all of our programs and projects highlighted. Make sure that you check out ruidosomainstreet.com. Where we have just actually released a couple months ago our engraved tile fundraising project. The project is our organization's way of going at a different funding source since special events are no longer a thing for the current moment. This is where you can commemorate, commemorate a 4x8 tile on the exterior wall of our Midtown restrooms there in the district. As you guys know, we did do an update where we extended the roof line and housed our digital kiosk project, which will now be complemented by a wall full of tiles. We've already been successful at generating around $11,000 in funding for the project, so we're excited to put those funds to use. And we'll do so in a new website, and then we're also doing it in a creative art installment project that we have planned at the location there in the restroom. So council, the community, if you guys are interested in getting the tile and supporting a local nonprofit, make sure you check out ruidosomainstreet.com. Next, I just kind of wanted to go into, we do quarterly reports. Just kind of keep track of investments, private investments that are going on in the district. I know that what we've tracked over the past 2 months, we had 5 businesses that did improvement projects. We had 1 new business added to the district, and that is Roots Ruidoso, located at 2315 a new coffee, cocktail, and household retail location. We tracked down close to 88 hours and 30 volunteers over the past quarter, which is probably one of our lowest, but due to the pandemic and just the scope of what we're doing, we'll get our volunteers involved a little bit down the road. Again, we did apply for Public CARES Act funding. We were able to secure close to $2,800 for the organization. And so just to try to keep the lights on so that once we're back operational, we'll have the opportunity to throw some special events. Make sure you check out our Facebook page. I really feel like it's where we're hosting and showcasing a lot of what we're doing. A lot of our grant opportunities that are out there are showcased on that, as well as our website. We are co-hosting with Parks and Rec the Village Volume and highlighting business owners and locals from around the community. I'm biased at trying to get my Midtown merchants in there. So if you do want to give a listen, make sure that you check out the Village Volume. It is on the Ruidoso website there. So pretty fun stuff. We were able to obtain the $10,000 from the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, a grant that is highlighting and showcasing local businesses. We'll ultimately have 12 videos produced. We are already working with business owners and photographers and videographers to produce the content that will go out. I really look forward to this. I think it's just kind of phase one. I do have 120 businesses that ultimately need to be showcased. So I am actively seeking out additional funding to kind of go after programs like this that support our local businesses, their e-commerce and social media platforms, basically. So stay tuned for that. You can check out all of our current Main Street series are on our YouTube site at Ruidoso Midtown Association. So check out YouTube if you want to see what we're up to there. A couple things over the past quarter we did a small business webinar that we hosted and showcased with ENMU and the Ruidoso Valley Chamber of Commerce, just really showcasing ways that businesses can use e-commerce platform and social media to sell and really go after that new revenue source that so many businesses are going to. Our virtual business mixers that used to be a big fundraising campaign for us are now hosted digitally. This is stuff that we just showcase all of the projects that RMA has been working on, and just an opportunity for us to kind of strengthen the Midtown district communication. So our digital kiosk and digital app for the basically the duration of its life, I'm sure you guys have this information in front of you, has over 400,000 page views. Our Ruidoso Main Street website to date has over 60,000 views. So just some cool analytics to kind of keep track of. We use these analytics to target market some of our events and stuff like that, and some of our marketing that we do for the Midtown in general. So just some cool analytics and a platform there that we're able to use and kind of dissect what we're doing here. The next project that we've been working on in coordination with other village agencies is a relook at the public parking facility behind off of Eagle Street. That would be behind Hidden Tap and all the way over there to Noisy Water Winery. The idea here is to work with New Mexico Main Street architects to ultimately look and identify if there's opportunities to develop better parking efficiency plans, as well as a trash can efficiency plan and traffic flow efficiency. This is still kind of in the preliminary stage. We had a site visit with our architect last week. We will come up with some renderings and would really like your guys' guidance and counsel as we get into this project. We'll also reach out for that public input process of this project. But I really feel like this is a keepsake place in our community that could really use a fixing up and welcome both visitors and locals to our Midtown district. So I'll keep you guys informed as we move along there with the conceptual renderings. Other than that, I'd really say that that's kind of what we've been working on, and would like to stand for any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? We know it's been difficult like it has on all these different things. I'm glad you guys are hanging in there and moving forward. And we've got some really exciting things, I think, coming up that we want your participation in. And I think you can get a commitment from all the council. So there should be at least another $1,000 here looking at you. So we'll fill that out on the tiles. And you can put whatever you want on those tiles, you know. I mean, you know, within reason. And I think, what do you got, 20 characters or something?
Yes, sir. It'd be 20 characters per line and up to 3 lines. All that would be dictated on there. And then I do have a blackmail fee. If you want to put something vulgar about somebody, it costs you to take it down. Only kidding. Okay. But all that information could be found at ruidosomainstreet.com. It's all digital, where you can go on there and purchase your tile there. So I appreciate the support on that project as well. Working with the village to execute that, it's been nice.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matt. Does anybody have any questions of Matt or comments? None? All right. Thank you, young man. I appreciate it. All right. Okay, the boards and commissions, we don't have any appointments right now. We should have one coming up pretty soon, having some more volunteers, and we're just, if we have vacancies on any boards, yes, sir?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we do have one vacancy remaining on the library board, so.
Okay.
And possibly
I have the person that wants to fill that, so we'll get on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Let me see. Well, I'm hung up on my computer here. All right, so we'll move on to the village manager's report. Mr. Dodge?
Mayor, the first individual I got ready to present today is Samantha. She's going to update us on the Town and Country project.
I think you're going to have to turn your microphone on and speak into it, because I couldn't understand you from here.
Mayor, Council, today I got Samantha ready to give us an update on the Town and Country project.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are in the stages of going into being able to publish our invitation for bid to bring on a contractor. I touched base with our project manager this morning to see if we got the go-ahead after submitting our financial requirements from their checklist, as well as them approving our initial wage rate request. And so they have signed off on the request to use grant funds and gave us the green light to be able to publish, to advertise, to bring on a contractor.
Okay.
And I'll stand for any questions you all may have.
That was, now what was the date that you were expecting to be able to have it one chosen? Or contractor?
In our project timeline, we mapped out 30 days to advertise for the contractor.
Okay. All right. That's exciting stuff over there.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. So all starts with that CDBG grant and moving on through. So that's awesome. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor, we do have several projects moving forward. I know that, I just wanted to personally thank you, and I know Tracy and some of her friends took a look at the colors for the tiles and the paint and stuff like that for Village Hall remodel. That project's moving together. Ron worked with Jeffrey and Windstream to make sure that we got the fiber relocated so that we could keep the library going as we move forward with construction as well. So the construction on the north side of the building is gonna be proceeding. Chief is gonna give us an update on the E911 equipment and an explanation of what happened with the center. So we've got the chief here to present on that as well, Mayor.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Referring to the E911 upgrade, the E911 is funded by the Department of Finance Administration through the E911 system itself, where your phones are taxed. and they pool that money up, and each PSAP or Public Safety Answering Point gets, they go into a hopper or into an order of merit for getting upgraded. Ours was last upgraded in 2013, and in this past year, starting around July, the information came down that we were due for the upgrade. The paperwork was put together, was brought before council, and when it was brought before the council and when I was asked, what is this, my belief was that it was just our annual upgrade to the E911 contract system. I did not realize that it was the upgrade for our dispatch center. The information was taken back. DFA contacted, or the E911 vendor contacted our dispatch center, and they set up for the implementation and the putting in of that equipment, which took place last week. So we now have the E911 upgraded system within our dispatch center.
And am I to understand too that the sheriff's departments was upgraded?
Yes, sir. They did them at the exact same time. There was a team here and a team down at the bottom in Carrizozo. Whenever they flipped the switch for our 911 servers to be actually physically moved in, the calls were transferred down there, which there were none, and then they did us the reverse in the afternoon.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, just Chief, how does that help you?
Well,
Being totally ignorant of this system and the upgrade.
so what the E911 system does, now we have two components, and I'll answer your question if you give me just a second. You got a radio that sits there and the dispatcher talks on that radio. That's independent of the E911 system. The E911 system is where when a call comes in, as soon as someone dials the last one, when you do 911, as soon as you hit that one, it goes active. And anything you are saying or doing is going across and into that phone receiver at the dispatch center. Then that ties into a geoglobal, they got all kinds of words for it, but it puts it to where we can see you. They can look on a map and see where you are, not down to the finite, but very, very close to where they can track you. So all of that got updated to where it's a whole new system as far as the mapping and the radio towers, cell towers, so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll just be moving it into the new Horton complex when it's ready.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, if I may. Mayor, some of this discussion came up because, we were in a meeting about the Horton complex and the dispatch center. And, we were under the understanding that the new equipment was going to be going into the new center. And there was some disconnect that occurred. Some of the miscommunication, I guess I'll call it, happened. And I think, they went ahead with the install into the old center because of just the processes that were going on. Normally when monies come to us as a grant, we expend them through our financial means. With this one, DFA hires a contractor, they work with us and get the install done completely without any financial transaction coming to us, and then they turn around, they turn the equipment over to us, and then we book it on our finances. So there was some disconnect as far as what was actually occurring, if it was an upgrade. Ron and I were under the understanding that the new equipment was going to be going into the new center. When we found out, we're in a design meeting, and the electrical mechanical engineer that were working on the Horton complex weren't getting the information that they needed. So Ron and I made some calls, and we found out that this upgrade was occurring. We tried to stop the project, but it was already under contract through DFA to be installed the following Monday. So the program manager from DFA did say that, he's going to assist with the cost of relocation of moving the new equipment to the new center. In addition to that, he talked about Bill Raines, and I recall I was still in community development where there was discussion. The old director's name was Bill Raines. He came, he was encouraging the consolidated dispatch and that he was going to help with the upgrade of the dispatch center and there was a lot of promises that he made at that time. Well, since Bill Range has left and Stephen, the new project manager, is having to go around the state and make sure that there's a plan for implementation of all these centers around the state and the upgrades and whatnot. But he assured us that they're going to continue trying to work with us. The generator hadn't been funded and the councils hadn't been funded. So they've asked us for the quotes on those pieces of equipment. They're going to provide that. Once we provide that to them, then they will take it to the Board of Finance to request those funds. So we're trying to get everything in a line. We've already set some internal protocols where the chief, the lieutenant, and our dispatcher supervisor will be attending the project meeting so that we ensure something like this doesn't happen again. In addition to that, they're going to be taking some procurement classes. So I just wanted to add that in and give a full description of what occurred and how we're mitigating to move forward.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Chief, what about, when it's time to move down to Horton, are we going to have coverage when they take everything out of the police station now to take down to Horton? It will have sufficient coverage?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Letterman, what we would do is just the same process is where when we would come down with our system, it would roll over to the county.
Okay.
And then as soon as they got it put up, then it would come back up.
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mayor and Councilor Chief, there's also a mobile system that we do have that we'd be able to utilize as well.
Okay.
So there's redundancy built into that.
It just kind of happened out of sequence with what we thought we were doing and whatever, we were still trying to figure out heat loads for equipment and generator size, and they were installing the equipment.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyway, thanks, Chief. Does anybody else have any comments?
Do we have
questions?
any kind of idea about how much longer before we'll be able to move it over to the Horton?
I'll
That
defer
depends
that
on
to
how
the
many
mayor.
more times he changes his mind, isn't that right, John?
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and defer to Ron on that, so.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, at this point, the architect is finalizing, they have the floor plans finalized, they're just working on getting the wiring, all the technical data for installing the new, the equipment, the consoles. We still have to purchase, we're going to have to purchase and install a new tower there, and I believe 300 feet, Chief, is that what it is, about a 300-foot tower? Placing the generator. I'm going to say sometime in the summer, but if everything goes well, and then we still have to have Windstream do a new cut-in of the 911 line circuit that goes into also into the Horton complex. But we have our next meeting with Horton, with the White Sands and the architect. I believe we'll have a better timeline at that time, and we'll sure give that to the council and moving forward on that. On the court side of it, I believe most of that is already, the design is final. And I know Councilor Coughlin's been, Councilor Cornelius has been on those meetings and Mayor Crawford, but we're just waiting on some of the specifics on the technical side of the wiring, and Leor with Systems MD has gone in and put together just on the low voltage wire on the network and put some plans on that. But I think just on the equipment is what we're still waiting on, and hopefully they'll have that completed soon so we can move forward and get it bid out.
Mayor, I believe White Sands informed us that they should have the bid ready within 30 days. And that's when we met with them at the last project update. And then from there, you're going to have probably a 30-day bid where he's going to actually price it out. It would come back to the council for approval. And then the contract for construction is 120 days.
Okay, so possibly third quarter.
Yes.
Okay. We just don't hear a lot about, there's so much details that you guys are working on, and we don't hear about what's happening. So that's just nice to know.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, that's something we can do now is maybe every council meeting give a detail on the Horton and where we're at on that, since we do have our municipal court and the consolidated dispatch would be good to have.
Okay. Anything else?
Mayor, that concludes my manager's report unless there's any other questions. I do have a project update that we're going to be doing on Thursday with the easements. There is some hiccups that we've ran into on the surveys and getting the easements in place, and we'll have a full report to us at the meeting, and that's for the mitigation project.
So Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I had one other project, just a quick, this is on the US Highway 70, New Mexico 48. I'm going to call it a traffic study that was conducted by Bohannon Houston. They're in the process of scheduling a public meeting on Thursday, February the 25th at 6 p.m. will be a Zoom public meeting, and they're going to begin advertising that, and I will continue to inform the governing body on the status of that, but something that we wanted to put out there. We did mention that on the radio show on Monday, but we wanted to at least get the word out that they're ready to have that public meeting. So, and the council had requested that. So, thank you.
All right. That was a shameless advertising jaunt for the Monday with the Mayor show, so keep that up. Maybe we'll add a listener. That's good. I just had a question. Could you briefly touch on the radio building over there? They've already started roughing in some stuff over at the Wingfield house, Wingfield property?
Myself? Yes, sir. I was over there last week. They looked like they had trenched in and roughed in all the plumbing for the bathroom that's going to go in there. And that's all the work that I saw. I think perhaps they're waiting on an inspection on that, and that's all the work that I've seen done so far.
And this is where the CID, the state inspectors, we have to wait on them to come in.
Mayor, there was some adjustments made to the plans, so they're still waiting on the permit. They just did some floor cuts.
Okay.
So we're still waiting on the permit on that.
And then are we getting close on the final draft with the architect Yababuto? Has he turned in? I mean, we're working on the final drafts on the Wingfield house yet? On the exterior?
Mayor, for the Wingfield house, we're currently finalizing the construction drawings for the demo permit.
Demo permit, okay.
Yes.
So we're moving forward, okay. Anybody else have any other questions or anything you'd like of the manager? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, either to the manager or the deputy, this is referring to page 23 of your report, the first bullet, give you a little. The version of bridges submitted by New Mexico Department of Homeland Security to FEMA. My concern was it would increase project worksheet costs from $150,000 to approximately $2 million for each bridge. Could you elucidate a little on that for me?
Mayor, I think we got, Mayor Councilor, we got Judy. Judy wrote that section of it, I believe, or Karen.
Mayor and Councilor Jackson, back when Hurricane Dolly hit and we had all the disasters, when the first PWs or project worksheets were issued by FEMA, the actual cost at that time that they thought to replace the bridge was at $150,000 per bridge, with the thinking that it was considered a large project and that FEMA would not necessarily reimburse the $150,000, but what it actually costed, which many years later when we completed Eagle Bridge, we determined that the average cost could be around $2 million. So we have requested reversions on all our bridges to let FEMA know that they're not going to be around the $150,000 mark as they had originally thought, but could be upwards around up to $2 million. We have since completed Close Road Bridge, And we noted that at that point, that bridge was over-designed, and we had went back to FEMA to try to get a reversion to drop the cost, but they just wanted us to get a bridge done. So going forward, we have been working with FEMA to let them know that the cost of a bridge, and we have six remaining bridges will be somewhere under $2 million. So we were trying to do revisions to get a cost closer to what we thought, but as of date, FEMA has not gotten back to us on the revisions yet.
And I guess my follow-up question, Mr. Mayor, is the revenue available? And if I recall, when we had these initial discussions, the standard of bridge replacement was set at a certain year, and not further forward from that. So did that impact on any of this, and where's the revenue?
At this point, as we go through each bridge, we will have a 7% match of the total cost. And as we go forward, determining the large project amount, and throughout this process, Councilor Jackson, we have had to get the engineer from the state. We had a bridge type selection report completed to determine whether we could do pour in place or prefab bridge, determining what would be the lesser of the two to go through. So at this point, we're not exactly sure what a bridge will cost us in the future, but we will at that point, once we get the determination of what a potential bridge could cost, we will have to come back to the drawing board to figure out how we will set aside our 7% match on each bridge, knowing that we won't be able to do all 6 bridges in 1 year. They will have to be cycled through, maybe 2 at the most per year. So at some point, we'll have to sit down and determine if we have enough growth in GRT, or if we have other funding sources that could be moved towards it, or if we would have to go and borrow money to cover not only our share of the bridge, but the timeline or the time lag from when the bridge is completed to when we will actually get funded back, not only from the feds, but from the state, because the feds are covering at 75%, the state will be covering at 18%, and our share would be 7%.
Mayor, Councilor, we're estimating that our share is going to come in approximately at 750,000. But as Judy's saying, as we build the bridges, it's going to be a cash flow issue. And, that's where we're going to have to set aside money to cash flow the projects.
Is the state, Mr. Mayor, is the state cooperating in their funding, their portion of the funding?
Councilor Jackson's mayor, when a PW is written, usually we get 50% of the share of the federal and state match on what is on the project sheet. So that's why we are trying to go through a revision so that the project worksheet will reflect an accurate cost. Therefore, we could actually draw down 50% of what the actual cost could be, because right now we have been dispersed the 50% of the Fed and state shares of the 150,000 on each bridge.
Thank you.
Gosh, how do you go from 150,000 to?
Way back when this happened, FEMA wanted a guesstimate. And Brian Williams was the guy with FEMA, talked to our people, and he just wanted a guesstimate as a card holder that this would be in line.
Yeah.
And so we don't even know where the 150,000 came from. And we've been working against that figure for 12 years.
Okay.
Engineering cost alone would be more than $150,000.
Yeah.
So,
and as we found out with our sewer line project, that every year that we go over, inflation's hitting at 12 to 20%. So there's no telling how much this will be when it finally gets around to it.
Mayor, and since we brought up bridges, they have mobilized on Close Road Bridge, and it is under construction.
Okay.
They're moving pretty quick on that project.
On the Gabion basket repairs, going real quick. Okay, any other for the manager? Okay, we'll move on to reports from municipal officials, and before I start there, since this is kind of our, your opinion page, with your piece, I just, we've, just speaking for local businesses, I see the news reports of, the open border policy that our governor has. And before we open our borders, I just think that we should open up our restaurants. And while we're at it, how about the Racino, the bowling alley, movie theaters, and the bars? I know that we've had meetings for the last 3 weeks concerning the Racinos, the racetrack, and everyone been pushed off another week. And so that just doesn't look like very much attention's being put to the third largest revenue generator in the state. That's just very disappointing. We haven't heard back from the governor, her people on those things we've sent in. Also on the horses, still get comments, although they're fewer and far between, because horses, I guess, have learned to dodge traffic a little better. And since they've had that new little colt, or I think it's a colt, they're staying in people's yards a lot longer. But we sent in a resolution. We have not heard back from any of the powers that be on what we can do as far as birth control or whatever. But just to stop any more rumors, we never have voted to remove the horses. We've never voted on that. It's not even part of the discussion. Ours was to get the people that had some ability for control and to see what options were available, like they're doing in Sandoval County, Montana, Arizona, Nevada, whatnot. But what's happening is with these businesses still not being able to be open, we're getting report after report of, what do you call them, speakeasies, places that are opening up and serving alcohol, or for a fee you can bring in your own alcohol and dance to the radio, the jukebox, or a band for a fee. And this is not only not operating in COVID safety practices, and I'm not going to argue about any of that, but it's against the liquor law. And so the alcohol gaming division should be addressing that. So yes, we have heard about it. None of them are in the village limits. So that's all I had about that. And so we'll move on. And is there anybody that wants to raise their hand and go first, or you mean to just pick somebody? You're going to go first? Okay, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Short and sweet. I just don't think enough can be said from a health and wellness standpoint on the vaccinations that are going on in the village and into the county for that matter. I saw the extended county dates. I was on a meeting where we might thought it would work better to have it on a weekend, especially in the surrounding communities. It seems it caught traction, and I don't mean just on the internet and on the national news, but in this community, and it speaks well for Ruidoso. Ruidoso has always had that culture of working together. We'll never be Santa Fe and don't need to be, and we won't be Taos and don't want to be. So I think we want to be Ruidoso. That's all I have to say.
Well said. Well said.
Okay, Councilor Coughlin?
There's been so much going on, I can't just really even think about much. I mean, it's just, numbers are going down as far as COVID cases, which is good. Numbers within the state are going down too. I'm hoping that we can lift some restrictions on travel, not have to quarantine for 14 days, especially for those that have had both the number 1 and number 2 vaccinations. And schools are back in session as far as middle school and high school. So if you drive by the high school and the middle school and you were not doing 15 miles an hour, be prepared. Kids are back in session, so drive a little bit slower. That's about it. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilor Cornelius?
Is after the town hall meeting and your state of the village.
Excellent state of the village.
Yes.
Marathon.
It was. I've had a number of people comment that they were surprised that we were doing it, that so much was going on. And they were real complimentary, and I think that speech came off real informative.
Good.
So
that's what we wanted.
that's it.
Well, we owe that all to the staff that put it all in, you just have to read it off. Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
I think everybody's covered what I was going to say, so I'll pass.
Councilor Letterman? Come on,
I'm speechless.
you're speechless.
I will say that Keep Reynosa Beautiful, we're looking at doing some things, distancing and having some cleanups this spring. So in the meantime, please keep your places cleaned up of trash. I know most of the time it isn't you. We are having a lot of wind. And so bags and trash blow around the birds. People don't keep the trash cans, the lids down, but we are planning on hopefully having some small cleanups.
Okay, very good. Counselor Eby?
I just want to reiterate your giving of the state of the village, and my wife and I watched it together on YouTube, and she was very impressed. She says that you're probably going to be running for governor here sometime soon.
Oh, yeah, me and Candy Azale.
But anyway, I just want to applaud the community as the reason for those proclamations that you so deservedly gave out to people and the community for stepping up to the plate and seeing a need, and they had the means to be able to help in a capacities, and they stepped up and did that. So that just shows the spirit of the community as a whole. So we just want to thank the community, and this is just a great place to live.
Yeah, it is.
It is, awesome. All right, so thank you, everybody. That was short and sweet. And just watch me on time, because we have that expert that's going to give us some information on the oil and gas moratorium and how it affects New Mexico about 2:30. So we'll move on to, do we have anybody calling in public hearings, public information or public comment on regular items?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we do not.
Okay, we'll move on to regular items.
Mayor Crawford, I had just one on the regular agenda items, number 6. We were waiting on a proposal, and Chief Tedford, we can still have him, if you want to have him still, he can discuss the type of vehicle, whatnot, so.
So do we want to postpone that, or what?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we've been discussing having a special meeting sometime this month, and possibly have that item also when we do have a cost proposal, along with some other items that we were wanting to present to council.
Okay. So the answer is postpone. So we'll have a special meeting on it.
Mayor,
And they're nice trucks, yes, sir?
Mayor, may I step back to manager's report just for one item?
Sure.
You know, I did want to report to the council that this week is our last week of the rural testing. And, you know, over the last few weeks, we've been meeting with the Department of Health. And the Department of Health about 3 weeks ago approached us and asked us if we wanted to continue on with taking on the curative test. They were thinking about moving back and transitioning into the vaccine. Last week, they came back and said that they're going to have curative come out with a mobile van and take over the rural testing. And then at the beginning of this week, it changed again. They said that the mobile van is going to be moved to Chaves County, but they're going to continue the testing here in Ruidoso. You know, with all the changes that's occurred, and yesterday we had a meeting with Dr. Sosin, and he's explained to us the red and green and how the whole metrics works and whatnot. But I was pretty, upset that they're not going to continue the outreach to the rural areas. And it's just been going back and forth with them and whatnot. They are going to continue here in Ruidoso. We do see the numbers going down. The way that they're collecting the information and compiling it, we're not getting all the information, so it's hard for us to predict where we're going. Dr. Sosin did say that he would make himself available to Joe so that they can start, communicating on a weekly basis to see if we can do those projections. By the numbers that we're getting and what we anticipate is happening with the school numbers and the hospital numbers, we think we're going to be very close to that 5% this time. It's going to be very close, and then, we should be coming down to right about 38 per 100,000, and we need to get down to 21 per 100,000. So, you know, it's gotten better, but I just don't see how we're going to get there. And the testing is really a double-edged sword. The more people you test, the higher you get. So you get to either red or green. But the testing really helps you find out where the infection's occurring in the community. But yeah, I just want to take a step back, and we did have that meeting yesterday. I do have a call into the governor's office because I was pretty taken aback when they said that they weren't willing to continue to provide those services in rural New Mexico or rural Lincoln County.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with the fact that we raised the question of the fees that Curative was getting for collecting. You know, we'd heard, and so we just asked the question that they were supposedly getting $75 for collection, and they weren't collecting, we were. And so, anyway, but I appreciate all the efforts that you and the staff have done with all the neighbors that we have in the county. I know that that was a big help, taking the tents out, setting up, help. And we appreciate all the cooperation that we got from the different communities. So, all right, anything else?
Mr. Mayor, Tim, do the surrounding communities understand all the wherewithals of this and how it occurred so that they don't think we're just shutting them out?
Mayor, councilors, we have had all the rural communities engaged in conversation, and they know that we have been out there supporting them and helping them, and they understand where it's going. They've brought up some of the questions as far as insurance and testings and things of that nature. And a few of them say, you know, the way that they're working the numbers, you know, that it's actually working against us. So is it doing us better to test or not test? What's the benefit? And that's the conversation we're having, is that, you know, you put all these roadblocks out in rural Lincoln County or even rural New Mexico where people don't have access to the internet, they don't have access to smartphones, and then you expect them to get online and register. And we were more successful in the rural areas, and Joe and you know, some of our employees were out there registering people on site. We'd have people showing up, 6 registered and 30 non-registered, and we were registering right there on site. So the access to the testing creates challenges for people in the underserved areas. And that's where it's not fair. And I brought it up in the meeting yesterday, and I talked to Dr. Sosa, and I said, you know, your messaging, your criteria, your red and green, it's based on the whole population, but we're not providing services to the whole population. So
it's a mess.
It reminds me of something once said by an astute accountant: figures don't lie, but liars can figure.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we're at. That's where a lot of this mistrust is all coming from. So.
Well, that is a personal opinion.
All right, we'll move on to regular items. Item number 1 is discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2021-10, a resolution supporting using mobile analytics to provide economic revitalization to the community. And this one's pretty powerful stuff here. So Samantha, you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilors, this resolution lines out our implementation plan for Buxton. Starts off by talking about internal controls. I have a draft of internal controls so far. We're still working on tightening those up. The next part that it lines out is the request for a personalized appointment. We'd be conducting those free of charge with any business or event planner in Ruidoso. I needed a little guidance on how you all wanted to approach it if somebody, say from the Downs, wanted a consultation. That has come up. And then after each consultation, we would hope they'd give us a feedback survey. And so Jasmine's prepared a survey to present them with afterwards, so we can continue to improve our services to them. But it's pretty basic. We'd like to make sure that the internal controls are kept within my department, and any reports that are ran, that we have a request form to correlate with that, so that we're not misusing this information or using it for personal gain.
Okay, does this kind of answer those questions and concerns that we were having that was brought up? Because it's a very powerful tool, and we just want to make sure that it's restricted. And right now, Samantha, she'll be the only one that has that access. And then we'll have a review, I suggest monthly, on just what we're looking at, who's asking for it, and you know, what the results are, so that we're inspecting in what we have.
Mr. Mayor and Samantha, my understanding after all that was, I can understand control of the entity just to keep the database pure, but we would be free to share and sequester the data that we have for whatever it is that we're targeting as a shareholder, and that seems very fair.
We just don't want the ability to be misused, so we need oversight. So anybody that wants to call in and make an appointment, a business or whatever, to ask the questions, and we're still learning. We need to get a better training on this thing, and because it does have so many aspects of it. But, you know, to use it for the benefit of Ruidoso, and, you know, you ask a question about Ruidoso Downs. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I was thinking about that when you said it, and hadn't even popped up in any discussions previously, but it's an investment that the Village of Ruidoso made for our economic benefit and the benefit of those businesses and events that are located within Ruidoso. I think that for those businesses and events being held within the Village of Ruidoso limits, it should be provided at no charge. For outside of that, then I think it would be reasonable to expect some type of a fee to help recoup some of that cost. Because why should we be financing the cost for this to help entities outside of the Village of Ruidoso, which argument can be made, we do have some benefit from it, but the reality is this is trying to generate additional GRT by bringing more sales into the village, and those sales that take place outside the village limits, we don't benefit from any of that GRT.
Racetrack?
That would be an arguable entity. Because the racetrack, the direct impact of any transactions taking place at the racetrack do not affect the Village of Ruidoso. However, there is the offsetting, you know, the secondary market of people coming to the racetrack. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Because we looked at that when we were talking about the influence of the track on the valley and businesses, about how many businesses in Midtown and service providers and second jobs that people have in this community are directly related to what goes on at the track initially. The people that go there have homes in Ruidoso that they have upkeep on. They shop in Ruidoso, so that's where that secondary comes in. So, does anybody see any error on this? Go ahead, Joe.
I don't really see an error, but I was just asking this is open to businesses that have a business registration, doesn't matter what type of business.
Correct.
And then I have a comment on the Ruidoso Downs partnering with that. I don't know exactly what was paid for this particular program, but we could look at that a different way, since we are looking at Ruidoso Downs as a, let's just say, a sister city, kind of joined at the hip, let's say, and we are working on the Museum of the Horse with them. At least they've approached us with it. Is that I would say out of a gesture of working together, we are already at an 85-15 split with the sewer line, and that's kind of like the consensus of the percentage that people have in their head. What about approaching the Downs and ask, would you pitch in 15% for the cost of this particular program, and then it would be open to everyone.
Mayor.
Manager?
Mayor, Council, I believe as we continue to move forward and look at economic development, we have to work regionally. And, you know, sometimes we have to be the leader in that. You know, when we started to look at this software and having this discussion around this resolution, we don't want anybody to utilize this analyze somebody else's business, to create cannibalism of businesses. I think that's the important part. If somebody wants to come in and they want to enhance their own business and what they're offering, as long as it's not creating unfair competition to others, I think we need to start engaging that, and we need to use this as a tool to start engaging rural economic development, inviting in more partners. I like the idea of maybe getting some other communities to cost share, but I think we need to open that discussion as far as an economic approach to regionalization. And we're the leader in a lot of those areas, and I think we need to continue being a leader, and some of these people will help us as long as we're not creating unfair competition for our constituents.
Well, and I've always been of the mind that, in Ruidoso, when we started here years ago, neighbor businesses would fight against one another over tourism dollars. It was like the guy walking down the street or the lady only had X number of dollars to spend, and if they went in your store, they weren't going to get it. But we've always proposed the ideology that, rising tides lift all ships, and we are the leader in the community with what we do. I think we benefit from anything that comes into the valley, and if not us, then who's going to do it? And so, I understand what Councilor Coughlin is saying to protect the investment, and I think one way to look at it is that we're enhancing the success of this investment by working with the track and what other businesses that are in the business district that would like to be able to use that tool would only bring more people to the area. And that's what we're trying to do with even bills that are going through the legislature right now, is what can we do to bring more people to our area regionally? And we're competing not against the Downs, we're competing against Red River, Taos, Fort Davis, Stockton, those areas, Six Flags Over Texas for that matter, Colorado. And what can we do here regionally to bring in as many people as we can and lift them up too? That's just my personal opinion. But we can have a discussion on that if you want to, on limiting it or whatever. But I would like to see us move forward. And if we have a business down there that wants to contact us and look at how this could help their business, and them willing to invest in change in their business, because that's what we've been talking about since COVID, is we have to adapt and change to the new business environment on how we live, work, and play. And so I think this is another modification, and if we can get our neighbors to buy into that, then we're all better off. That's just my opinion. So, but whatever y'all want to do.
And I agree with what Tim said. We are definitely the leaders in the county. And at the same time, we only succeed when we work together. And by creating those partnerships with our other communities, then we can all succeed together. And that definitely makes sense. And I think that's where we need to get some buy-in in whatever fashion that is, up to the ability of these neighboring communities. Because let's look at, you've got the county, you've got Ruidoso Downs, you've got Capitan, you've got Corona. They all have different abilities from what they have. And some of them can't participate in the same fashion as others. So we look at the strengths, that what can they bring to the table, and sit down and have these meetings. For a while there, what was it, a couple of years ago, we were having these, the set meetings, and nothing really came of that. And we have these issues, and we have these ideas that come forward, and then they just kind of die off. People have grandiose ideas, and it's always pointing fingers at somebody else to do the work or to come up with the investment. But if we can truly sit down and have some meaningful dialogue and some conversation and some partnerships there, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
Well, and I will say, like on the Stronger Economies Together concept, that was a lot of work. But what it did do was it helped develop relationships with people in those other communities that were coming in. Maybe the whole community didn't get behind it, but it always takes a few people, and I agree with you. If we can get them to come in and talk to us and show that, actually putting skin in the game, then that would make it better for all.
Mayor, councilors, just to touch base on what Manager Dodge just stated, in the internal controls, we will only be doing consultations for the business that's come in, not their competition.
Right.
Local competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about their business. It's not about what your business is and how do I get it. That's not what we're talking about. Yeah.
If we need to analyze another market like Taos, we will provide that type of.
Yeah, and that's some of the stuff that we have the ability to do is analyze geofence other areas so that we can find out what people are buying, what they're looking for, and see if we have any of those gaps available. Because we got people asking us, I want to open a new business. What does this town need? And for once, we're going to be able to maybe provide them with a roadmap, but we want to offer it to our existing businesses to help further strengthen them. So it's an important tool, but we just want to have control and accountability over who and what's doing it, what we're using it for.
Mayor, and I say that more in a sense, like, say you have a local business that says, I have a common competitor in one of the other competing communities, and the demographics of people going into that community are similar. Let's take a look and see what type of products and what they're selling them for and the amount. So we can help businesses like with that type of a consultation where they're looking at that type of a competitor, but not local. We don't want to do, they refer to it as cannibalization of the market. We don't want that to occur here, so.
I just see it being a challenge for your department because I don't know about many of the local businesses having the wherewithal to even know what to ask. And how, I'm completely unaware of all the strengths of this software. So how do you go in and say, hey, I want to take advantage of this, but where do I start? How is it going to benefit? And you guys are going to have a lot of work as far as that goes, but, education is a good thing.
Okay. So do we want to move on adopting this resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we're through discussing, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt Resolution 2021-10, a resolution supporting using mobile analytics to provide economic revitalization to the community.
Second.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Samantha. Roll call, please, Mr. Sena.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and you want us to skip number 2?
I haven't heard from
Okay,
you.
we'll pass on number 2 until our expert is ready, and move on to number 3 is discussion and possible action on addendum number 1 to the small purchase agreement for professional services with the Regents of the University of New Mexico Southwest Environmental Finance Center for implementation of the Village Ruidoso Utility Asset Management Program. And that's a whole big mouthful that Mr. Boyda, are you gonna
Yes.
unwind it for us? Go right ahead.
Mayor Crawford, councilors, I'm Eric Boyda, the Water Resource Director. Last special meeting, you guys approved the asset management plan that the Southwest Environmental Finance Center worked on with us. They finished with $34,000 left on their contract budget. And so I had asked the utility committee if we could try to pursue using these funds to help us implement the initial stages of the asset management program. And they recommended that we should just bring it to the governing body. So we put together this agenda memo. But what this amendment would do is it would have them help us continue some of the work that was outlined in phase 2 of their scope of work. I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to get more of our scanned in paper maps geo-referenced so that they're actually would lay out like an actual map in our ArcGIS. That's going to be very valuable for us to have all those scanned and maps geo-referenced. In addition to helping us with some of the criticality analysis that's associated with the risk and resiliency assessment, that also ties into the asset management program. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions.
Go ahead, anybody? I think it's a great program, and I know we've discussed it to death, whatever, and then I look forward to the day that we have all of our assets, as Councilor Coughlin's pointed out. So, anybody else have anything?
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Councilor Eby.
To approve addendum number 1 to the small purchase agreement for professional services with the Regents of the University of New Mexico Southwest Environmental Finance Center for implementation of the Village of Ruidoso Utility Asset Management Program.
Second.
Okay, any final discussion? Roll call, Mr. Senna.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman? I'm sorry, Counselor Cornelius? Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 4, discussion and possible action on change order number 1 and acceptance of the final completion with General Hydronics Utilities LLC for IFB 2020-001 Hemlock 2 waterline replacement, decreasing contract amount by $41,009.67, including gross receipts tax, requesting an extension of 7 working days to June 17, 2020 due to inclement weather, and this is a closeout. And so we'll have Mr. Sanchez. Adam, are you doing it, or is it Karen?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is just the closeout for Hemlock 2. This is a geobond project, and there is a decrease in the project for the not needing of the rock excavation and some alters that we did on the tie-ins. And also, like I said, they had some inclement weather days that we're asking for.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other comments or questions?
Refreshing.
Okay, I thought he was going to say something more than that, Adam, but after him jumping up and down all the time, which he should on these change orders, it's nice to have a decrease.
Yes.
So, thank you. All right, we'll take a motion.
I'll make it.
Okay,
I move to accept change order number 1 and acceptance of the final completion with General Hydronics Utilities LLC for IFB 2020-001 Hemlock 2 waterline replacement, decreasing contract amount by $41,009.67, including gross receipts tax, requesting an extension of 7 working days to June 17th, 2020 or 2021?
2020, we've done it, we're just closing it out.
Okay, I'm sorry. June 17th, 2020, due to inclement weather.
Second.
Okay, final discussion?
I would just like to point out for the taxpayers, that puts $41,000 back into GeoBond capital projects to allow us to get more work done. That's great.
Thanks for paying attention, Adam and Karen. Roll call, please.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Thank you.
He's on Zoom? Okay. And at this time, we'll go ahead and our special guest is with us now on Zoom. So we'll move back to item number 2. Is discussion and possible action on adoption of a resolution 2021-11, a resolution in opposition to the Biden administration's ban on federal oil and gas leases. And today with us, would you like to introduce him, Councilor Coughlin?
I would love to. I've known Mark for a while now, and Mark, I actually looked up you on the internet so that I can make sure to give everybody the full impact of what you do. So Mark Murphy is president of Strata Production Company, an independent oil and gas exploration and production company based in Roswell, New Mexico. He is the director and former president of the Independent Petroleum Association of New Mexico, former treasurer of the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, former chairman of the Independent Petroleum Association of America's Land and Royalty Committee, and currently a member of the National Petroleum Council. He served as former policy advisor to 3 United States cabinet secretaries, 2 at the Department of Energy, 1 at the Department of Interior. In 2006, he was appointed by President George W. Bush to serve on the National Air and Space Museum Advisory Board, and is a former chairman of the Energy Industry Consortium Research Partnership to Secure Energy for America. Blah, 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 blah. And then and then I just wanted, for point of clarification, Mark also serves as a board, on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Chavez and Lincoln counties. So Mark comes with a lot of knowledge, in the oil and gas industry. Since this, has come out, the executive order by President Biden, he's also been on Fox News, KOB, and I don't know how many other news stations. So, so Mark Murphy is here to answer questions that we have regarding this whole situation that's going on.
Man, we really appreciate you being here. And really, could you just give us a primer on what this moratorium actually means to oil and gas in New Mexico?
Sure. First of all, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thank you so much for inviting me. And I just had a few minutes ago was able to read your resolution, and I think it reads perfectly. I think it hits all of the high points. I'm a 3rd generation independent oil and gas producer. I've got 15 employees. I also spend a lot of time up in your community as I have a home out in Alto, and have hunted and camped and fished all over Lincoln County my entire life. So thank you for the great job you guys do up there in your service on this council. There's probably 3 or 4 areas, if I could, I'd like to touch on. And first is the leasing ban. And, under the Mineral Leasing Act, the administration is supposed to hold 4 quarterly sales on oil and gas leasing. That's my alarm to join you. I apologize. And what they have done is they basically have said that they're going to, quote unquote, pause leasing for now. And none of us really know exactly what that means or how long that will go on. But what the concern is that this pause is just going to go on indefinitely, because many in the administration have, voiced strong opposition to oil and gas leasing on federal lands, and so forth. So a lot of it is the uncertainty. And it's very difficult for companies like mine to plan with that sort of uncertainty. But you'll hear out of the administration it's not going to have any effect, because all of these companies have banked these drilling permits and they'll continue to drill. And that's simply not the case. There's a whole lot of companies like mine. These permits, the actual drilling permits, we figure cost about $50,000 to put together and get approved. And $10,000 or a little bit more of that goes directly to the federal government. And the rest is in surveyors and geologists and engineers and environmentalists and biologists and all the different types that we've got to jump through in order to get that permit done correctly. So there's the leasing part of it, which is sort of appears to be at least indefinitely on hold. And that's very dangerous, because it's very difficult to assemble projects. It can many times take a year. And by that, I mean, it might involve 5 or 10 or even 20 or 30 leases in order to get a big enough block to make it economically feasible to go in there and commit the money to drill an exploration well or even development wells. And so what this really means is that there's a lot of operators out there that are trying to assemble these lease blocks, and now they might have a big hole in the middle of their lease block. So the inability to get that one last lease many times will kill the entire project, and because you can't control all of the acreage, and it just makes it very difficult to get financing and other types of things. So there's that, and it means a lot of the smaller companies just simply won't be drilling. It also means the number of companies see this uncertainty and this hostility from the administration and simply say, you know what, I don't want to do business in New Mexico anymore. It's just too difficult. And the next part beyond the applications and permits to drill, nothing is moving through the BLM offices. Folks that we talk to literally daily right now in the Carlsbad office, which we primarily deal with, and they've just been basically told to stop. I mean, they're not supposed to approve anything. And so what's happened now is even the things that sort of are in the queue that were ready to be approved now then go to Santa Fe, and then they send them from Santa Fe. Instead of getting local approval, they now then have to go back to Washington to the very highest level of the Department of Interior for approval. And, you know, of course, that's just, I think, another delay tactic. But there's another aspect, just not, you know, there's a number of ways that New Mexico benefits. One of it is the federal royalty income. We get 48% of that comes back to the state, roughly half. And so that's the royalties from the producing wells, from the ongoing oil and gas production that's happening right now. But when you quit the lease sales, half of the bonus, in other words, the lease sales will come up and it will be bid on competitively by multiple companies. And whoever bids the highest gets it. And so that amount, half of that amount also comes to the state. So in recent years, one single lease sale meant as much as $400 million to the state of New Mexico. Here we have an industry that, like the rest, everybody else, has been severely hurt by COVID. We saw actually negative oil prices for the first time in history this past year, almost unheard of. We now are back in the $55 to $60 range, where a lot of the projects in southeastern New Mexico, or more and more of them, start to make sense economically. And so this is going to have, I mean, it's going to have a real impact in terms of immediate dollars, but also the loss of jobs, and all of the things that you all have so pointed out so well in your resolution.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd just like to say, talking to some people, I've heard from people that this is great, this is a good thing. I've also heard from people saying that private businesses shouldn't be profiting off federal lands. But it happens all the time. I mean, grazing permits are huge in the national forests and on BLM property. Hunting leases, all kinds of different things that we use federal lands and get compensation back for the services and the activities that are taking place on those federal lands. I, for one, believe that we do need to look at especially in the state of New Mexico, diversifying our revenue streams. We rely so heavily on oil and gas. I think that those revenues should be spent more on capital improvement projects rather than recurring funding, which, to me is a bad business strategy, something that's so up and down and so unknown about whether it's going to continue. But this is something that, it's a tough road that people are going to be affected in all kinds of different ways for it. I did actually go through and read the entire presidential order. And yeah, I agree with Mark in that, when you read it, it's like, well, we want to pause, we want to research, and we want to do all this stuff, by a certain date. But this whole pause has no end date. And yes, it's something that, I hate to say it, but government officials, I don't always trust them. And I don't always trust people. And if you want to just put a blanket ban on it, then call it a ban. But when it's a moratorium, if we were to say we're going to pause it for a year, okay, great. Then we're going to pause it for a year. If we're going to pause it for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, but be transparent in everything. And this is just an open-ended blank check for a moratorium on it. And that, from that standpoint, I don't agree with it.
Well, it's another example, I think, of government people that have no business experience. You just don't stop and start businesses. It's just like what Mark said, they're going to continue to figure out how to make revenue, these companies, so they'll be moving. And I read that there was the potential of between 50 and 60,000 jobs that could be lost in New Mexico. Is that correct?
That's correct. The American Petroleum Institute just released a study, and it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 62,000 jobs from what I recall, and at least $1 billion in lost revenue this first year. And so, when you hear from the administration, and Mr. Mayor, you pointed out exactly right. During one of my interviews, I said this, I said, energy should really not be political. I've served under multiple administrations of both parties, and it's energy sources will always transition, and we will transition away from fossil fuels as the market and people make that choice. If you think about energy usage over time, somewhere back then, our ancestors that were living in caves, lightning struck a tree and fire was discovered, or however that happened. And all of a sudden they found that wood burned pretty good. And then later they found out that, well, even more heat could be generated from peat and coal. And now we're using oil and gas, and and we're beginning to transition into renewables. And at the point where nuclear could become safe. So the comment I made, which I'm sure is not going to go over very well with the administration, is that look, that we need to get some adults back in the room, because this is just really bad policy for not only the nation but for our Western communities. And back to Tim's point, one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that the federal government managing, 400 and 500 million acres of federal lands has a responsibility to our Western communities to allow those lands to be utilized for the benefit of those communities, jobs, taxes, or whatever. And that's actually enshrined in the law that gave them the power to manage that. It's called the multiple use concept. And the multiple use concept says that you should use a piece of land for every use that you can that's environmentally safe and make sound decisions. So in other words, if you have a tract of land where you can issue a grazing lease, you should do that. If on that same tract of land you can issue an oil and gas lease, then you should do that. If on that same tract of land you can put up wind turbines, then fine, do that too. But they're really abrogating their responsibility to our communities and to our state. And I think the next question that people have to really ask themselves is, what do you do when you lose 40% of your revenue? And we know what happens in businesses, and government is going to turn and look somewhere else. And what are they going to do then? Are they going to raise our state taxes? A number of years ago, when I had a study done through the Independent Petroleum Association of New Mexico, the Legislative Finance Council did it, and I asked this question. I said, what would happen if we lost our oil and gas revenue in the state? How would we make up that income? Now, this is back during the Richardson administration. I think the tax rate at that time was almost 6%, the New Mexico income tax on all of us. And they said you would basically have to double that tax and every sales tax across the board in order to come close. So, or are they going to now, I think one thing that people have to ask themselves, and certainly people in the renewable industry, if I was in that industry, I'd be concerned, because here is an industry that they're saying they're going to replace fossil fuels. Okay, are they going to replace the revenue stream? Are they going to be taxed a severance tax? Are they going to be paying royalties on that? And the whole idea that a poor state like New Mexico could give up 60,000 jobs and $1 billion is just devastating, and it's ludicrous policy at the federal level.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's and then all the jobs that tie into that, and the taxes and the families and the scholarships and the colleges and the schools and all that. It is. I don't understand how we expect to do it. Can you tell me, have you had any contact with the governor or her chief staff on this issue? Because I'd seen one interview where she acted like she was opposed to this, but we all know better, I think.
I think, yes, sir, that's correct. She did say, and I don't remember exactly how long ago, it was within a few months ago, said that if this happened, that she would request a waiver. And I know that there's been a number of lawmakers that have gone to talk to her, other people have gone to talk to her, but for whatever reason, she's being silent on this issue, and is not defending New Mexico at all on this. So it's basically silence out of the governor's office.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
If this is a federal ban, then people pick up and go, where are they going to go? Because it's a
Well,
ban.
New Mexico is a public owned, a lot of properties owned by the federal government. It's not private like in Texas. Is that not right there, Mark?
Oklahoma.
Yes, sir, that's correct. About a third of our state is federal land.
And the rest of the states are private, like Oklahoma, Texas, where you do a lot of the other drilling, see? So that has no effect on them, but it does here.
Okay.
You have Wyoming that's going to be hit very hard. You have Montana, the Dakotas, Colorado, Oklahoma, anywhere there's federal lands. And and I think the interesting thing is that actually the tribes have been more vocal on this than the governor has, because they recognize they also have shares of the revenue from development on their reservations. And so it's very concerning to them as well.
And we'll still be using oil. And so I think that, you're looking at $55, $56 barrel of oil, but I mean, you'll be back at $4 at the pump in no time with this kind of thought process and shutting down the pipeline. They're still going to be bringing in oil, but it'll be on train tracks now and instead of running through the pipeline. So there's just no rhyme or reason. So your adult in the room comment, I understand totally. Is there anybody else that has any questions?
The comparison you made between government and private business, private business revenues reduce, you cut back expenses. Government never does cut back expenses. We just look for new revenue streams. And, that hits people right in their pocketbooks, and it's going to come from that. And to replace $400 million, and how many people are in the state, that's going to be a lot of money that is going to have to come from somewhere.
Can't print it.
Yeah.
Our families, are all under stress. My kids are grown up, but I have lots of friends with school-age children. They talk about, them being locked in. I think about the social economic impact of this to oil field families in the Southeast and the Northwest that are already stressed. It's I don't know. To have all of these health concerns and then lose your job, cannot be a happy thing for a lot of people.
Right. And those are good paying jobs at this maximum unemployment. What is it? $426 a week plus the $300 they're getting now. So that doesn't even measure with what a lot of these paychecks these folks were getting before.
Well, in the president's executive order, there's 3 terms in here that I found really interesting. SCC, which is the social cost of carbon, SCN, which is the social cost of nitrous oxide, and SCM, which is the social cost of methane. So they're trying to monetize damages associated with the social cost of those 3 items. And it's like confusing to me. It sounds like some kind of new math.
What's the social cost of unemployment
Well,
and
yeah.
hunger?
I got a question.
Starving to death. Yes, sir, Joe.
My question is just more of a social impact as far as your population. And I haven't heard you speak on this, but I just wondered if you've done any type of studies on it or looked into it. We've all heard about population movement from different locales to different states for different reasons. And generally, it's either because of ideology and taxes. So, for instance, we have the city of New York, where you have an exodus of fairly wealthy people because of the tax burden that is pretty burdensome, and it's also increasing. But here in New Mexico, and I'm sure several of us have had conversations with people that they know within the community and within the state, that they say that if things get any worse, that they're leaving the state. Now, we're only 2 million people, and I'm not sure exactly because the census hasn't come out yet as far as the exact numbers with that. But you have the movement of people from places like New York City and they're the rich people moving out. But here in New Mexico, with the burden that this is going to put on people, that you would have the poor moving out if they could. So, if they could, that is. So have you done any types of studies of population movement because of restrictive policies of oil and natural gas and the restrictions that the government has put on states and the country as a whole or different areas?
I'm not aware of one, but I think that's a really good idea, and I'll be talking to our associations and others about it. I think it's that's something that we just know from experience what happens in situations sort of like this. And The thing that I think is lost on some is that it's easy, you say, well, 40% of our budget's from oil and gas, and a lot of that's from federal lands. But remember too, most of that budget is our education budget. And so, when they do this, what they're really doing is taking dollars out of our classrooms.
Absolutely.
And as we all know, that this state has had that type of exodus that the council member was talking about, especially in our young kids. And so while we've had an oil and gas program, we now see, we see my friends have kids in their 30s, for example, and 20s, and they've gone and got their engineering degree, and they're not working in Houston or Oklahoma City anymore. They're working in Roswell and Artesia, but they're only working here because there's an industry to support them. And so, I've lived in New Mexico all of my life, and the worry has always been is that we're basically exporting our future and our brain trust, because our kids may get educated here, but if they can't find a good job here, they're going someplace else.
Yep. Exactly right. Okay.
So
absolutely. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, Mark, thank you again for presenting a lot of information and your expertise. My questions there are two, actually. Recently, and this is more of a comment, but recently this morning when they had the press club from the White House, one of the questions that was posited from Fox News, which was probably the only one in the room that would say it or question it, was when are these green jobs going to be available to replace those losing in the gas and oil industry? And I'll leave that as an open question to you. The other one is, I believe that we have our new Secretary of the Interior from New Mexico after the governor passed it by. But on the other hand, it's an executive order. So is it just kick the can down the road and let the Interior Secretary go about her business?
I think so. There's a lot of concern about Congresswoman Halen's appointment as the Secretary of Interior because of her past positions. But going back to your first question, my knowledge of green jobs is that you get those you get construction jobs, but those are specialized crews that sort of move from project to project. They're not necessarily New Mexicans. I'm sure some of them are, but they move and they may do a project down outside of Vaughn, for example, and then their next project may be somewhere up in Colorado. So it's not that once those plants are, whether you're talking about a solar facility or wind turbine farm or whatever, the jobs are really in the construction jobs, but those are mobile jobs because they go on to the next project. The maintenance of that facility generates very few jobs, and that's a huge problem. I saw that or heard about that question as well, and I think the Labor Secretary was asked about it, and they won't answer the question because they don't know the answer, and the answer is they're not going to be able to create those green jobs in either the number or the time frame that they think they can. It's just not going to.
The White House press secretary basically gave it a pass. It was a non-responsive spin on the question.
Right. And I'm sorry, did I answer both your questions?
Yes, Mark, you did. Thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else?
Mark, thank you. I know you rushed from the airport to be able to participate in this, and we really appreciate it.
Yes.
If I look like kind of raccoon eyes, I just came off a fishing trip, and so I got red cheeks. But I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I really appreciate the fact that you all are taking, letting your voices be heard. Our governor is not saying anything. Our senators aren't saying anything. Luckily, our CD2 congressional representative is working this very hard. I'm in contact with Congresswoman Harrell daily on this issue. She's writing letters and doing everything she can. So we've got an advocate there, thank goodness. But it's I guess not surprising, but it's incredibly disappointing that our senators and our governor are not taking this issue up and trying to help out the people they represent.
Well, we appreciate your time and your knowledge. So thank you very much, and we'll move on. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
I think that was super informative.
It's scary.
And morbid.
Yeah, and eye-opening and all of those things. So we We appreciate you setting that up, Tim, very much, and for Mark Murphy's attendance on that.
I didn't even have to twist arms.
Well, I know it's a big concern because I talked to other communities. We've fared pretty good through all of this with our revenue still coming in, but some of the smaller communities, Lovington, Clovis, Carlsbad, some of these other areas haven't. So anyway,
So I will say that I think it's the right thing to do to let your voices be heard. However, I think it's going to be ineffective. Result of the.
At least it's another talking point when we get to talk to the governor's chief of staff, because he said, yeah, it's all hands on deck here. We're really working on this, because I point blank asked him about this very issue. And, he says, yeah, we're working on it, all hands on deck. And we haven't heard a thing out of them in, however long. So back to the resolution. Mr. Cook, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, Mayor, when I first drafted this, I added a whole bunch of other statistics or numbers about how broad the state of New Mexico, from the state level to the local level, and everywhere in between and everywhere outside of that, benefits from the industry, and just how important it is. I narrowed it down in the version that's in front of y'all to just hitting the highlights that everybody mostly talks about: education, public safety, and healthcare. So the numbers don't add up from the top number on the resolution when you add up those three industries, but those are the biggies that affect the most amount of people in the state. But it's just important to, and I didn't write it in there, but it's important for everybody to always consider that it goes, it touches our lives in every way. So.
Are you getting any kind of sense from your colleagues down there that are showing up? I know they're just Republican, the Democrats, but do you talk to any of them on Zoom and ask them about their take on this resolution, moratorium, about how it's going to affect New Mexico?
Oh, yeah, everybody's deeply concerned about it.
So,
all of my colleagues.
Is there any talk about reducing state expenses?
I haven't heard any.
Okay.
I thought the discussion was increase.
Okay.
Well, I got just a little comment, and then I'll make a motion.
Okay.
We want to thank Mark for coming and speaking there, but this goes back to the importance of when Congressman Yvette Harrell, then Representative Yvette Harrell, introduced a bill into the New Mexico Roundhouse, the Return of Federal Lands Act. And that's when I presented that resolution here before the council in support of that particular bill. And that, of course, is giving the state back control of the federal lands, which was agreed to by the federal government in the enabling acts when those states became states, that in a reasonable amount of time that they would return those federal lands, they would sell them, the state would sell them off, but they would be returned back to the state. Those states that have very little private federal lands controlled by the federal government are doing much better than us on the west of, say from here west. So I think it was about 40% of New Mexico is federally controlled, and all of the counties are just afraid because they're afraid they'll lose their PILT money. But that they need, I think that counties and governments need to grow up and say that we can control our own lands. So that was a very important, and that's why I was pushing for that. So now I hope that this will help open people's eyes that we need to push for the return of federal lands to the states. Now, with this, I believe we need to do this. We need to send this off, but we're also having a special meeting, I hear, in a couple of weeks. I would be in favor of Representative Cook in the capacity of a lawyer and also a representative to write a resolution asking the governor to open the state up. That is killing our businesses, that we are in support of opening up our businesses. That we need to have some action there. And that right there is almost like a moratorium, a pause button that just keeps getting extended. So if you all are favorable to that, that's what I would like to see.
I don't have any issue with passing a resolution to open up businesses, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lawsuit against the state of New Mexico right now, speaking to that very point, that the continuing of extension of the Emergency Act is unconstitutional. An emergency happens and then it's over and you should move on. So I know there's outside forces that are pushing on that too. So,
Well, I believe that we as a governing body, we need to at least have our voices heard by the businesses, by the residents of the village of Ruidoso, showing that we feel for them, that we know what's going on, but we also oppose what's going on and that we are willing to speak out against it.
okay. Well, that would be official because we do, every chance we get, speak out against it.
I know you all do, and we appreciate that, absolutely there.
But go ahead and make your motion.
Just one second. On this, for us to just do a resolution, okay, but are we going to send it to Washington? Are we going to send it to the governor?
Yeah, we just don't leave them here. These are all sent on to the governor, like the one that we did on the horses and all that stuff. We send it, and that's why we keep expecting some kind of, hey, got your resolution, but we don't even get that back. So this one will be sent on to the state for sure, and I don't know about federally.
I think it should go to the federal, our New Mexico senators and New Mexico House of Representative.
Delegation.
Yeah, but because you're not hearing anything out of either one of our senators. What's their names? Udall and
No, Udall's retired.
he quit. What's the other name?
Heinrich and
Henry Lujan.
Lujan, yeah, Lujan.
All right, I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2021-11, a resolution in opposition to the Biden administration plan on federal oil and on federal oil and gas leases.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Roll call.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I would like if you'll let me just read it so people understand.
Yeah.
Resolution 2021-11 is a resolution in opposition to the Biden administration's ban on federal oil and gas leases. Whereas oil and natural gas production on federal lands in New Mexico accounted for $1.5 billion in revenue and 18% of total state spending in fiscal year 2020. And whereas more than one half, or nearly 54% of New Mexico's $2.8 billion in revenues from oil and natural gas production came from federal lands. And whereas oil and natural gas development on federal lands in New Mexico is a critical part of our economic and fiscal future. And whereas oil and natural gas development on federal lands provides New Mexico with $734 million in resources for our public schools, $344 million in resources for health and human services, and $85 million for public safety. And whereas President Biden's administration recently announced a new moratorium on oil and gas leasing and permitting on federal land, putting New Mexico jobs and revenue at dire risk. And whereas more than 62,000 great paying jobs in New Mexico stand to be lost thanks to the oil and gas lease moratorium. And whereas when the oil and natural gas industry is allowed to thrive, as it has for the last 4 years, the overwhelming benefits are felt in every corner of New Mexico. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the governing body of the Village of Ruidoso, is opposed to the ongoing moratorium on federal oil and gas leases in New Mexico as ordered by President Joseph Biden and his administration. passed, approved, and adopted this governing body, by this governing body of the Village of Ruidoso on this 9th day of February 2021. So that's what that one is about. We will send that on to the governor's office, and then we'll make sure that we get it to our 2 senators and whomever else at the federal level that we can make sure that it does. But we need to let everybody understand just the impact of this, because so many people that I know honestly have no idea. They've given up watching news and what's going on, and they're not tuned in. And this will just go right by them until it starts hitting them in the doubling your tax rates.
Mayor, just a quick comment, because I know some people will argue the point that the title of the resolution speaks of a ban, and the actual executive order is not a ban, it's a moratorium. But the wording within the resolution refers to moratorium. It's just a moratorium with no end, the way that it's written right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Now we'll move back on to another one that's a good stroke of good work. Item number 5 is discussion and possible action on change order number 4 and acceptance of the final completion with Cherokee Enterprises, Inc. for IFB number 2020-002B, Alto 2 Well, H 1979 S7, improvements decreasing contract by $34,308.16 to a total of $450,107.51, excluding gross receipts tax. And this is where we're working on getting that all consistent with including. And so we'll have Mr. Boyd up.
Yes, Mayor Crawford, councilors. So I kind of explained the change order during the workshop meeting about the cost savings from the washover and testing allowance. And so I thought I'd just show you guys a couple pictures of the project since you guys haven't been able to go out to the site for a long time. So this is the Alto 2 well site before any work was completed to the area. The wellhead itself wasn't in compliance with NMED standards, and there's also a drainage issue where the drainage would all go towards the wellhead. And so our project, I don't expect you guys to see too much of this, but the project restored the wellhead in the bottom right corner and installed all the process plumbing. And then we tried to reuse as much of the infrastructure as possible, maintaining the well house, and then a significant portion of the water line as it goes up to Eagle Creek. But as it crossed Eagle Creek, we did a new crossing and then tied into the new water line that we put in for the Alto Reservoir Pump House. If you remember, the Alto Reservoir Pump House line used to go through the dam, and that was a compliance issue, and so we worked with some legislative appropriations to move the line to the kind of the toe slope of the dam, and so we were able to tie into that new line. So here's a close-up of that wellhead. And I know I explained it a lot, but pictures will help out quite a bit. So this is the washover bit. And so a washover is basically you have a large hollowed out bit, which is on the left side. And that's going to go over the top of the existing casing. So the well casing will go through the inside of that bit, and the outside gets drilled out and replaced. And so we replaced that to 50 feet. You can kind of see that it's a little muddy around there. It's something that we're not familiar with anymore, but it did used to rain around here. And so that bit gets welded onto a pipe, and then that just rotates around, and they remove the material there. This is the pitless adapter. So this brings the water from the well out underground to the piping. And so this pitless adapter was raised up several feet to help address that drainage issue around the well. And then here's the final wellhead, and you'll see that we have a proper concrete pad around the wellhead now. Here's the site where they dug out for the process piping vault. And so that vault was pre-manufactured and then brought in. And inside that was all the equipment associated with the well. We've got our water meter, air release. And then because this well is downgrade from the treatment plant, it's called a surge anticipator. And so if you get a water hammer that comes back to the well, rather than damaging the well, it releases the water off into the decant basin. And so here's that, the vault all finished and regraded around there. That backhoe on the top of the berm there is working on the discharge pipe. So we were able to run the discharge pipe into the decant basin for the treatment plant and use that for multiple purposes. And then the inside of the well house was completely remodeled. So we have new controls. We've got our SCADA unit there. That photo on the right side is our new meg meter flow converter. And so that's where we get all of our reads that we report to the state. The Eagle Creek crossing, the photo on the left is, you see that PVC pipe that's sticking out. That used to be the aerial crossing that was damaged in floods, and that's one of the reasons why we stopped using the well. So we opted to bury the crossing. So here on the right side shows the area that was trenched and it meets all NMED standards. This vault here is the valve before the crossing, and then there's a sample point where you can take water samples to monitor water quality in case if there's infiltration of the creek. And then this is the site cleaned up. In the back side there, we've got a vault, and that vault was to install a metering device for the Alto Reservoir Pump House. And so once we finish up the treatment plant 3 renovations, we'll be able to start drawing water from the reservoir. And so this is where we monitor that amount of water being pulled from the reservoir and report it to the state. And so here's that site all cleaned up. And then here's the final well site all cleaned up. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them about this.
Very impressive, I think.
Yep, looks good.
Okay. We just need a motion to accept the change order.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make the motion because I've been known to give Molson Corbin some grief in the past.
On this one's Cherokee, so keep giving Molson, they got
Lots
it
of
coming.
change order letter from Molson in here. I'll move to approve change order number 4 and acceptance of the final completion with Cherokee Enterprises, Inc. from IFB number 2020-002B Alto 2 Well H-1979-S7 improvements decreasing contract by $34,308.16 to $457,107.51 excluding gross receipts tax.
Second.
Okay, any other final discussion?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted an area of transparency to reflect that when you do the math on this, you have to reflect on a change order that increased the original contract by $7,416.67, and the net to John Q. Public would then be $26,891.49.
Thank you for that clarification, you're right. Okay.
Still
Roll
money
call,
that-
please. Anybody else?
Still money that goes back into the SGRT fund.
Yes, sir.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson, Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ron, you got a great voice for that.
He gets right up on the
Even through
microphone,
the
though.
mask.
Mayor, I'm having a tough time breathing. I might need some CPR a little bit.
Okay, and item number 6, I understand that we're going to need to move to the special meeting.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we can have discussion on this. We just won't have any action, and we'll, at that time, with concurrence with our attorney, we'll place this item on an upcoming meeting once we have the full cost proposals,
Okay.
or we can just move to the next item.
I think we can just move to the next item. I mean, we talked about this once before. Several of us have gone out and looked at the equipment. We're excited about it. We think it fits here perfectly. So
I want to ride.
You want to ride? Yeah, it's going to be nice. It's going to take you a year, so, but let me tell you, it's not that easy climbing up in that cab. You got to,
Well, I am old.
yeah.
You'll have to go to the
Mayor
Easter
Crawford.
egg hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor Crawford, I would recommend that we do a continuance on the item,
Okay, yeah, we'll,
just for procedural matters.
okay, so what do we have to do? A motion for that?
Yes.
I need a motion to continue item number 6, discussion and possible action on fire apparatus purchase of a Type 3 engine through the New Mexico State pricing agreement using New Mexico State fire funds.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ron, roll call.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, folks. All right, Chief, we'll just wait to hear from you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Item number 7, discussion and possible action on award of RFP number 2021-004P to Site Southwest LLC for property zoning codes, Chapter 54, evaluation and rewrite. Samantha?
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, this is
members of
John.
the
I'm
council.
sorry, John.
Yes, sir. We issued this request for proposals on December 18th in order to select a firm to assist us in evaluating and rewriting our Chapter 54 property zoning codes. We received 2 very good proposals, one from Consensus Planning Incorporated and one from Site Southwest LLC. Evaluation committee reviewed both proposals and then met and discussed them, and everybody was in agreement that Site Southwest had the best overall proposal and scored them the highest, and recommend that we award the RFP to Site Southwest LLC. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
And if y'all notice, it was very close. Usually somebody wipes out everybody else, but this one was very close between Consensus Planning and Site Southwest. Does anybody have any questions of John? No? Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to award RFP 2021-004P to Site Southwest LLC for property zoning codes, Chapter 54, evaluation and rewrite.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion? Roll call, please, Ron.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8. Discussion and possible action on contract for goods and services with Site Southwest LLC for RFP number 2021-004P for property zoning codes, Chapter 54, evaluation and rewrite in the amount of $99,999, including gross receipts tax. So, Samantha, why the $999,999?
Only $99.99.
I assume that's because they issued a question during the RFP, what our budget was, and John relayed that it was 100,000 and they came in at $99,999.
But wait, if you order now, okay. All right.
Just pay separate shipping.
And everybody knows this is long
Is that-
overdue.
Is that true that we responded in that manner? That's not something that we'd normally respond and say, this is our budgeted amount? Is that true that we made that statement?
Apparently it is.
Yes, sir.
But it is public information of what's budgeted.
Yeah, but it's not, normally, those are contract negotiations. That's a prohibited question during an RFP process. You shouldn't be, discussing financial matters during an RFP.
Okay, that's only after it's awarded. So, do we vote to accept or what do we do? I don't know. We're kind of in a.
Judy?
At this point, I would say you would move on it because also in bids, we also reveal our budget amount on our wage determination on the project estimate. And it was public information at the last budget adjustment meeting, which took place for, I believe, the September budget adjustment. It was public meeting that we were going to do a rewrite of planning and zoning at 100,000.
Okay.
Mayor, I would recommend, and I just hold this for any potential protest period. And I believe the protest period's 10 days. But, normally you don't discuss financial matters on a RFP.
But I want to move forward and get it rolling because it's well needed to be started on.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification maybe from the manager, then it would be your purview to not delay this to another meeting, but perhaps delay action on it if there's nothing within a 10-day protest period. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that would be in the motion?
Yes, just, I don't think we need to do that. The protest period would apply anyway. But I'm just cautioning that, that.
Yes, the appearance of it.
Yes.
So you would have the motion stand as it is?
That's correct. My recommendations for approval.
Okay, sounds good. A motion?
Yep. Mr. Mayor, move to approve contract for goods and services with Sites Southwest LLC for RFP 2021-004P for property zoning codes, Chapter 54, evaluation and rewrite in the amount of $99,999, including gross receipts tax.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I want to thank Manager Dodge for bringing that to our attention.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we'll have any protests because there wasn't any other bidders, right?
Mayor, councilors, I don't think we'll have any other protests. It's just, it's just like oftentimes you have a construction project, they're asking how much you have budgeted, and then they try to design the project to your budget. And, on the RFP process, you really try to keep the money separate from the RFP process itself. So, we're supposed to go through the request for professional services, the ranking and rating, and then you enter into contract negotiations, which is a monetary. So, if they request that during RFP process, normally that's not something that you would provide them information on. Now, if it's through a public records request, that's one thing, but a request for information during RFP is inappropriate.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Ron.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2021-09, a resolution approving the acquisition of real property located at 421 Hull Road in the village of Ruidoso, Lincoln County, New Mexico. And Rodney Griego.
There wasn't.
Mayor, councilors. So,
I'm sorry, Mayor Banner, can I ask, we're going to be discussing this, we still have some matters we need to respond back to. Can we table this, go into executive session and come back out?
Sure.
Consideration?
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt, Mayor.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we have it part of our packet, so.
Okay. All right, Rodney, can you hold what you got?
yes, sir.
Okay, and with that note, that ends that portion, so we need a motion to table this until after closed session.
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
Have a second? Okay, roll call.
Who was the second, was it?
I think Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Evie?
Okay. Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
You're doing so great, you just grew up on Cornelius, I have a problem with that too.
I get confused on the two C's there. I don't know. For some
Yeah,
reason.
you need to
Thank you.
I know we shouldn't sit next to each other.
talk to Irma about it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so I'll need a motion for us to go into closed session with the items listed.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into closed session with the following: discussion of limited personnel matters, citing State Statute 1015-1H2, NMSA 1978. Number two, discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant. State Statute 1015-1H7, NMSA 1978. And finally, number three, discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and/or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso, State Statute 1015-1H8, NMSA 1978. Any action taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Ron.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll now enter into closed session, so, what's that?
Rodney,
Just tell them goodbye.
why don't you join us in here?
Okay.